Welcome to the CVC podcast for September 14th, 2017. I am Britton, and I'm here tonight with Nick.
I'm the only one.
He's the only one. Everyone else chickened out.
He did.
So here we are.
I ran him off.
I would like to say that they were all stuck after the ravages of Hurricane Irene, but I think it's too soon.
It's never too soon.
Oh, man.
You can't even make Abraham Lincoln jokes. People will be like, oh, it's too soon.
It's too soon.
200 years is too soon.
Man.
Or 100 years, whatever.
Oh, gosh. Did you watch any of the coverage for Hurricane Irene?
Not a whole lot. I saw that it pretty much flattened the first set of islands that it hit. Yeah. Islands that I don't remember the name of because I didn't know they existed.
The Keys, or you're talking about the ones, the non-American islands?
Yeah, the non-American islands.
Yeah.
And then the only thing I saw after that was like a snippet on MSN that said that Florida looked like a war zone or had been flattened or whatever it was. I can't remember, but I didn't really see too much on it.
Who would have thought? This sounds terrible, but I think as a nation, we kind of got hurricane fatigued. And to that end, once it didn't seem like a whole lot was going to happen, I kind of tuned out. And I felt really bad.
Well, I think it died down a bit by the time it hit Florida. I don't remember if it was, when I say a bit, I mean in comparison to what it was, but it wasn't, I think it was something like a 3 or 2 by the time it hit, or I don't really know.
It still had high tide in downtown Miami.
Yeah.
Which was like, it's not that I'm there for the brutal whatever, but it's just, I don't know. I hope I'm not that guy.
For as large of a hurricane as it started out, it really sort of didn't do what I think we all kind of expected it to do, which was to lay waste to Florida. Yeah,
and that's what I thought. And then I'm watching the news today, and the president is down in Florida doing his thing, surveying the damage. And I'm like, oh, man, maybe this was a lot worse than I thought it was.
Right.
It's like, it might be a month before like Key West gets anything they need. So I don't know. It's tough. But where would we be for Christian leadership if not for a guy like Kirk Cameron?
Yeah.
Coming and saying, hey, you know what, guys? I know why these hurricanes are hitting America. And at least he didn't blame the gay people for it. We got to count our blessings where we can.
Is he one to do that? I've heard, I don't know much about Kirk Cameron, but then he's got a big enough name that it's out there.
Do you remember Growing Pains? You might be a little young.
I think I've seen a few episodes, but I'm not really.
He was all the rage in the late 80s. Here's what he had to say. Kirk Cameron says that God is showing us his power, and he wants us to be humble. So that's not a direct quote here in the notes, but he goes on about this whole thing, and we'll put the link to the article in the show notes. But yeah, the whole thing was about him being about how America needs to be humble again, which I get it. We should always be humble, but like it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. It's like God, if we believe Genesis and you get to Genesis 6 and you've got this guy named Noah worrying about a flood, and then he gets a boat on it, and then God comes out and says, hey, no more flooding, like that. I'm not going to use a natural disaster like this and that's why we have rainbows and all that kind of stuff. If we believe that literally, like a guy like Kirk does,
right?
Why would he go and say God is hitting us with storms because he wants us to be humble? Like, come on, man.
That's... that's some near Sodom and Gomorrah level of belief there. He did it because he destroyed the city because they were gay, and it's I wish people like him would just be quiet. Just if you really feel for those people, you should humble yourself and go help them.
Or go to the Red Cross website or something like that.
Do something.
And a lot of people are doing something, and I'm just glad we can go a week without having to pick on Joel Osteen. So
that's true. That's true.
Oh man! So I heard David Crowder, the legendary Christian worship leader and contemporary Christian artist,
has
got a country tune.
He has a very country tune.
Wow!
It's we watched it on Yahoo for some reason, but it's got this like crazy. It's really hard to explain the sound. It's a very almost like old school, almost dirty country sound. Like he's maybe got something with like a steel guitar or something.
The first Christian outlaw country.
It's really strange, and the video was just fun. It was just a lot of like real redneck things where they're in giant lifted up trucks that are like going through huge mud piles and stuff, and just it looked like a lot of fun. But it was better than most, because most modern country is basically pop music,
right?
And so it had that sort of real, maybe older, maybe not as old as say like, you know, the first few waves of country, but like somewhere in between there. And it was actually pretty good.
Channeling as Willie Nelson and as Waylon Jennings, those kind of guys?
No.
Borrowing from them, perhaps, in a modern way?
But it definitely seems like they're not just playing a couple of chords and then having a lot of like condensed and compressed and reverb and stuff added to whatever to make it sound like a radio hit.
Yeah,
it sounds completely different. It's
nice.
just it's such a. I'm not big in the country, so I can't really explain like eras all that well. That's not my sort of wheelhouse. But I would like to just play it, but I don't want to really play it without getting like hit by something. We'll have to listen to it afterwards.
Yeah, we'll have to link. Yeah,
we'll link it in there. But it's fun. It's different.
Yeah.
It's a different.
I like him because we've had this big conversation here about Christian art, and he's a guy who isn't afraid to go and test different genres and mix those genres together. He's
well enough. He's established enough too, where he himself's also just kind of a weird cat.
Yeah,
but he's established enough that where he can just sort of, okay, I'm going to do something different. People go, oh, it's David Crowder, because you know the last few songs that we play are they're kind of, they almost like what's that song, Lay Down Your Burdens? Like, okay, that one almost has a kind of like a sad Irish folksy feel to it, where you're like, you feel like you need like you need a pint in your hand and you're swinging it back and forth. So
and you just kind of think you're a hobbit, and
it kind of seems like he has a bunch of different styles he's going with.
Right.
And he's doing it better than most people. So good for him. I mean,
he's doing it. He is always playing around with different sounds.
Even his old stuff, like when he was the David Crowder Band, because I think he's just Crowder now is what he calls it. But even then, like the song we attempted to play tonight, the Holy Yours, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
If you look at the lyrics of that, that's a lot deeper than most sort of mainstream Christian artists. There's a lot to it, because he does a lot of we talked about the word, he uses the word antonym in there. And if you don't know what an antonym is it just basically the opposite word of another word. So it's like it's the opposite of what a synonym is.
Right.
So antonym is an antonym of synonym, and we making fun of somebody with that tonight. But he and so that's not a word you hear, but he also does this little trick that I kind of like, because you can tell he's got a bit of a storytelling feel to him in general as a person.
Yeah.
So that song, and we didn't play it, but he goes into the verses and the choruses, which are really they're good, and then he goes into this bridge that is just completely different to everything else, and then the whole word is hinged on holy yours, HOLY yours. But the very last verse, he changes it to "I'm wholly yours," WHOLLY, and so he plays with it.
He's got wordplay.
So there's some like tricks that he does that you don't see mainstream Christian artists do. That's why I like the song.
Right.
But so I like that in music. So
that's awesome, because you're right. A lot of even mainstream Christian, mainstream anything really, They really, Christians only really know words that and phrases they rip out of the Bible sometimes. And then, but mainstream music too is doing the same thing and with the ripping off.
We talk
other
about
songs,
we always talk about how we want like real Christianity to come out in the music. Like we want that like real feeling. Crowder, I think, gives that a bit more so than most other people. See, I'm a lyrics type of person. Like I listen to like real heavy stuff, but I can get past like a really crappy riff or really like bad vocals if the lyrics are really good, like if they can connect to me. It's probably why I listen to half the stuff I listen to. If I really looked at it, I'd be like, man, this stuff I listen to is crap. But the lyrics are good enough for me to keep listening. So
man,
I value good writers is what it is.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. I'm glad we have someone to look to that's like that. I'll tell you who we shouldn't be looking to right now. And that is, okay, I'm going to set this up.
Unless he deletes it.
Because I've never felt right about this guy. And now, this is a presidential candidate and a guy who campaigns with the Bible in his hand, pretty much.
Father of two, husband.
Father of two, husband of two. And
Zodiac killer.
Ted Cruz this week, guys. He, his Twitter account, I won't blame him personally because I suspect I know how this happened, but Ted Cruz liked a tweet from a porn page on Twitter.
Yep, it's a porn page.
And of course the left lost their mind because anytime someone who's advertising Jesus like he does, they just lose their mind when something like this happens. He's like, oh, now I suspect that do you have the porn page pulled up?
No, I have.
Okay.
I have the. No.
I was like, good Lord, man.
I mean, we were talking about no.
Yeah.
I just have the picture of the tweet on his timeline.
Right. And
it's no porn on it.
No, it's no porn.
Just no.
But I suspect it's like a social media manager that.
That's what I
suspect that.
Yeah.
Or like an intern.
I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I mean,
only because I think he's smart enough not to do that.
Yeah,
himself.
Well, and I don't think somebody who is in his sort of position of, I mean, well, even like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, Donald Trump has always kind of stuck out weird to me on Twitter because he references himself in the third person.
Yeah.
And so you'll see posts like Donald Trump says this, this, and this, and it's on his Twitter. So it's almost like, okay, that's not him writing it. So so somebody who's in that position, they have social media managers. So I assume he has access, but I also assume somebody else does too.
Right.
It could have been him though.
I suspect there's no less than 5 people who could have been responsible.
Right. But there is on some level that makes, I kind of really
He's still responsible.
Well, no, not even responsible. But there's a part of me on some level that really wishes it was him.
Yeah. Just
so I could be like, that's depraved, dude.
Yeah. Do you want to explain what kind of porn this was? I'm not going to ask you the level of research you did, but
honestly,
I'm doing this for the podcast.
He's doing it to make me feel awkward.
No.
It's like, it's not your just typical thing. It's a little strange from what I gathered.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about my level of research.
No, and I'm just assuming that someone wrote all this down.
Yeah, I don't really want to sift through pages like that. Let's just say this. The pages like that one will post literally any video, anytime, anywhere. And so by the time you were to go and try to find that tweet, it's going to be buried by 40 other videos.
Yeah.
Because that's the type. I guess it's a compilation page, basically.
What?
You have to bleep this one. It's a compilation page.
I was doing so good. I'm not having to.
I'm sorry. I just couldn't help it. Yeah. So I didn't search for it. So, but that's. I get it. I got most everything third hand. So
senior news contributor for CVC podcast, David Chapman, sent me a little bit of information about it. He said that the actress that was in it was really into not that she was into, but she got a lot of work doing like this incest porn stuff.
Yeah,
and,
like.
Yeah, which is, oh man, the internet's a horrible place.
Internet's really bad.
Yeah, it's not, these people like to have these scenarios where they're pretending like people are related and all that kind of stuff.
We can't use any of this.
Oh, I'm going to use it. It's, the internet's horrible and we know it, and, we all know what's out there. And, so, that I don't think CVC is a big enough deal for anyone to have any detractors, but someone's he's going to listen to this and go, hey, those guys are all porn addicts. No, I mean, this is information's readily available.
No, I first saw the story, I guess, as it were, because some people that I follow on Twitter, they were cracking jokes at it, basically.
Yeah.
And when I went and looked into it, that's when I saw that they're, it was like, he's done watched this and then went to bed and never fixed this whole thing. And then it started, it hit top trending on Twitter for a little while too. And
right.
I mean, it was, that was overnight. And then the next day it really wasn't being talked about. But, yeah, I learned everything through people I follow.
Yeah. Did they make a statement about this or anything like that? The Ted Cruz people? I haven't either.
I haven't heard.
I hate to say this, but I had Fox News on all day today. The Fox Business Channel, just because it's just mindless chatter that I can listen to while I work.
Right. And
no one said the word Ted Cruz like in days, it seems like. So, of course, Fox isn't going to talk about it. But I've passed through the other channels a little bit. I figured you would catch wind of that there, especially like MSNBC, who would just love to go off on this. But what could they possibly say? That wouldn't get a kid passing through the room going, "Mommy, what's that?" So.
Right, and it seems just from right now looking at his just a Twitter, it seems like everything's just kind of. It's going on as usual, and they seem to be sort of glossing over it.
Yeah, I mean, without his, without all of his rhetoric about Christianity and faith and family and all that, and all that aside, do we even care what a politician looks at on his phone?
I don't know what.
I don't care.
All I can say is, for him, thank God for 9/11, right?
Yeah, well, I wish all these guys would just quit talking about Jesus from their stumps.
Yeah,
like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I don't need a politician to start preaching to me.
Yeah, I feel like all of these guys just want to bang their Jesus drum to get votes. Ted Cruz may be a great Christian man. I don't know. I'm not making a judgment about him one way or the other. I'm just saying I'm not a big fan of them doing it like that, because when stuff like this happens,
right?
It's if I'm not saying don't express your faith, but don't run on it.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me.
You're setting yourself up for massive criticism, because if you set yourself up there as this big faith-based Christian whatever and you mess up one time, it's just going to be you're going to get fire rained down on you from
because these guys are not doing it in a humble way. A la Kirk Cameron. They are doing it in a very heavy-handed, I'm just as good as your preacher kind of way. That's what I feel like they do. So I wish they would stop. Like
in 2 Corinthians or whatever it was.
Yeah. And I said years ago, I've been saying it for what feels like 100 years, that like Jesus is not a Republican, and we have got to separate ourselves, or at least our politicians' rhetoric, from our personal faith. Like if they are using something to get votes,
right,
then it's not on the up and up.
And I hate that as that people take that as a viewpoint of saying Jesus is a blank, because I've heard it from all sides. Oh, Jesus is a Democrat. Jesus is a socialist.
Jesus is a hippie.
Yeah. Jesus was Jesus. I mean,
yeah, that's something we've got to square with, is that he doesn't really fit into a mold. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was anti-authoritarian, of course. He was anti-empire,
Right.
At the same time, he said pay your taxes and respect government. So, there's a lot of things about Jesus that are very, very thoughtful.
Right.
So, man, a couple of weeks ago we talked about all this Nashville statement, which was the statement that a bunch of politically motivated, like Christian folk got together and formed this big document to say that we don't think that the LGBTQ plus community is legitimate, and there's no such thing as transgender. There is all this stuff. And if you're even remotely close to like accepting them, or if you're inclusive or affirming or anything like that, or if you just agree to disagree, then you're also wrong and can't be a part of the kingdom of God, which is like, great. I disagree with almost everything they had to say. And at the same time, like, great, you had to put a pithy document together to tell me all this stuff that we already knew about you. So now I know what's going to happen next, and you knew what was going to happen next too. And here it is. There's a new church statement about white supremacy. We are going to have this new trend of church statements, because this isn't the only statement I saw go by.
Really?
There was a statement that is just a statement against the Nashville statement. Mm-hmm. And now we've got an anti-white supremacy statement, which I agree. I'm totally against white supremacy and all those silly groups. Do we need people talking about all this stuff in declarations like we think we're Martin Luther or John Calvin or something? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I know if Jim was here tonight, he would say that it's a very exciting time in Christianity, because these are the documents, like, you see in the Council of Nicaea, where you got all these arguments going back around. But is it? I don't know if if these statements are as important as those documents. I don't.
And are they even technically arguing about anything so much as saying,
yeah,
this is what we believe, the end? It very much seems like the Nashville statement, and maybe even this one, that it's a group of people who are in a position of some sort of authority, maybe, who are almost speaking on behalf for everybody in their community. And I don't think that they're in a position to do that, because the difference between our government and the religion is that, we elected the officials, we're paying those dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in some churches you vote whatever in, but I mean, it's under the same idea that I can vote a politician in and not agree with them.
Yeah.
Same thing with my pastors, and I don't think they should be speaking for me.
Right. Well, and that's the thing with a lot of pastors. They think that's their job, one, to speak for you.
Whereas with our politicians, it is their job, technically.
Yeah, a pastor does think that sometimes, and then they also think that it's their job to tell you exactly how to live your life. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a very good job of a pastor these days, when we're looking for some counseling, we're looking for a good... for something a little inspirational to help us out. But what I don't need is for John Piper and friends to bone up and say, hey, here's what we're going to do, and this is the direction we're going to take. I'm like, no, man, I'm out.
Those are the people who they think that they're in a position of leadership because
they have a book deal.
Yeah, because they have a book deal, because they think they have the most important idea, and they want to be there. Whereas like the person that I'd like to follow is somebody who is sort of the reluctant leader, who kind of what we have now, who is somebody who, well, I didn't really want to do it, but I will.
Which that's well, that's why I'm here, to be honest with you. We're talking about our church and our pastor. Yeah. For the listeners who are wondering what the inside baseball is about, but
inside baseball.
Yeah, and even for the people who are writing statements against the Nashville statement, like, I understand, and I'm probably on your side, but is this the way to do it?
I would appreciate it if the language was written in such a way where it was like, I believe this, not we believe this.
Well, it's that collective attitude there's so much against that. I don't know.
Well, that's where we get now, where it's you're either with us or against us, and it's that that mentality that's in everything now that you can't even like what we were talking about with the Nashville statement. You're either with us on the statement or you're a sinner and you're going to hell.
In my mind, I think I'm on Team Jesus, but probably I'm on Team Britain.
I apologize if I want to be on the side of grace and compassion.
Yeah. I mean, and we would probably land on the side of these people that are the church statement about like against white supremacy, but I don't know. I just and I don't know what the answer is too, because I know people are like, well, if we don't, we've got this amazing internet communication tool, like let's use it. But I don't know. I'm like, I know my default answer on everything is no. Let's just not do it. Like let's just not participate in the shenanigans. So I don't know.
I'm all about having the conversation too, but it's got to be an honest conversation, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it honestly, and no matter what it is.
If two people aren't in the room together, they're not having an honest conversation.
Yeah. And that's the problem with the internet.
Yeah,
it's I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, I used to love this idea of conversations. Like, I was a co-pastor of a church for a while where we went out and did ministry in bars and coffee shops, and we would have Bible studies right there, and like everybody's welcome, everybody is including, and I mean everybody was included, because that was such a big word. We're like, man, we're here to facilitate a conversation, which we would say a lot of things about that kind of stuff, like, oh, conversation, we're having a conversation, everybody's included, everyone has a say. But after a while, when you realize that some people aren't on the same page, and they don't want, even though you're leading and facilitating this conversation, they want to drive the conversation to the ground. Right. So at that point, it's not a conversation anymore. It's some sort of a weird battle among friends.
Yeah, it's like almost like an intellectual,
like a big peeing contest. And yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's intellectualizing. It's
like a intellectual fight. It turns into almost a actual debate. And
I was in a deconstructing phase back then, so I was just like, are the miracles real, or is the resurrection real? Like, how does it all work? It's not that I was denying my faith. I was really trying to understand and figure it out. And for some reason, I helped lead something why I'm like we're all deconstructing all this stuff. And finally, I'm just like, I'm not helping anybody. Like, we got to start putting this back together. But that attitude that I had, the deconstructing attitude, at one point, it quit being about a conversation, and it became about daring each other to go further and further away. It's like some sort of weird truth or dare to atheism.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I felt like it was going. And maybe it wasn't, but I feel like it would have ended up there, at least with some people. So it was just... the conversation, if we're going to have a conversation about these things, it's got to be honest, and it's got to be people who are willing to sit down together. I mean, you can, I respect that John Piper holds that he holds a certain viewpoint. That's okay. I'm just not necessarily okay with him saying, but if you're not with me, you're going to hell.
Right.
Granted, he's a Calvinist, and they kind of take those hard stands like that. But.
Yeah. And, this is going to be throwing it into the wolves, but...
let's just get controversial this week.
Yeah, I'll get a little controversial here. That even goes for the people who are white supremacists.
Yeah.
I disagree with what you have to say, but what's the Voltaire quote is that I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death your right to say it.
Right.
And there's some people who take offense to that. I mean, the fact that I don't care that they say what they're saying, in fact, are allowed to even say it, they don't like that idea. Right. There are people who don't like our First Amendment, basically.
Yeah. There are people I'm sure listening right now who are trying to figure out what side we're on.
Right.
Which I'm okay with, because hopefully they're learning the greater thing is that I'm not taking a side with all these people who want to argue with each other on the internet.
Yeah. And even anymore, that's not taking a side is a stance. Yeah. What was it, that thing we saw where it was centrism is the new extremism?
Right.
I was like, it's technically not true at all. That's not true at all.
Yeah.
You are fake news.
Oh, people just want to write fancy headlines, and they think because they have a place on the internet
Yeah.
That someone gives them $15 for a blog piece, that their words mean
Have
that I
weight.
should believe what they say. But I'm like, I can say, okay, that's your opinion, but don't quote it back at me. I hope someone with brains doesn't quote it back to me.
Yeah.
Like, we know this person said this. Like, well, who are they? I don't care.
I don't care.
I mean, if I believe what I believe, and maybe I'm stubborn, but
well, beliefs aren't beliefs unless you've tested them.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
mine have been through a fire, son.
Right?
I half read an article the other day from The Art of Manliness, because I've got to learn how to do those sorts of things.
It's a pretty decent website.
Yeah, it's a really cool place to go. But this article talked about the feminization of Christianity.
If you're into reading tomes on the internet,
it's like a 10,000 word piece.
It's big.
Yeah.
But it does, and I totally didn't read the whole thing. But it starts off with what I really enjoy about it is that they lay out their terms first.
Yeah.
And then go into what they're going to talk about. It is just such a huge document that is just wow.
Yeah.
And you should check it out if you're into it, but and it goes into history, and at least the bit I read past, they started talking about when it all began, like in the 1700s or when
it was back there.
It goes into history and then just goes.
I mean, there's definitely been a history of women in the church that were not the leaders, but that were in the church, like as the main body of the church, and pulling their husbands in if they could get them there.
It makes sense though, because women are more communal, I guess, like in terms of communities and stuff. And so it kind of makes sense if, there's a big community with the church, there'd be a lot of women, if that's the logic I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe women find God in communities, and men find it, I don't know. Where we're at, baseball, fishing.
Yeah, probably
on the battlefield.
so.
Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a thing, because I've wondered for years, like the feminization of the faith, because like our music is very much... It's not what I would listen to.
He's looking for the word to not make
it a horrible,
super
sexist.
Offensive.
Yeah. It's not my brand, and I worked in Christian radio, and I can tell you that K-Love and the other sort of stations, that's not who I worked for, but these sort of Christian contemporary stations they're not for men.
Right.
That's just not who the target audience is. The target audience when I was in it was 35-year-old soccer moms. So, and they told us that.
Well, that would make sense why I have been saying that Christian music has lagged balls for the past few years.
Yay.
Hey.
But it's like, and it's not a slam against women or anything like that. They like what they like. And we're talking about in big generalities.
Right.
Like
We're talking about the
marketing data,
most.
We're not being sexist here. We're talking about the market data.
Most people, #, not all.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not you, if you're a lady and you say, I don't like it either, I'm like, I believe you.
Cool.
Yeah. We're
fine with that.
Yeah. But I can say that, without even like reading this article, just the experience that we've all had is that the faith isn't targeted to men.
Yeah.
It is targeted to women in a lot of ways.
There's a lot of nurturing that's in Christianity too. Whereas I think nurturing is definitely more of a motherly trait than a fatherly trait. So maybe that makes sense in some ways.
I'm definitely interested in. I'm not willing to go like hard one way or the other. Like I think Jesus is for everybody.
Right.
I don't want anybody to mishear that. It's just interesting it's always interesting to me to look at what we've done with the faith, like as a Christian culture.
But at the same time, I'm not against a bunch of women being in churches, because lady church food has been delicious.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
always been
talk
a
about
plus.
that.
That's always been a plus.
The whole time the church I was talking about that I ran for a while, I didn't attend Sunday morning services at that point because we met on a particular night of the week, and that was our time to commune. And so I slept in on Sundays for the first time in my life. The one thing I really missed was church dinners.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, the fried chicken, the 17 different casseroles. I might start speaking in tongues.
But if you start doing that, we'll just start shoving food in your mouth because it'll be open.
But oh my goodness, like all that stuff was great. But I don't know, it's definitely interesting. Like it's worth a read, and we'll post it in the show notes too.
It is a bulky article, though.
I tend to trust whatever Art of Manliness puts out there.
They're a good site. If you they teach a lot of things, is what I like about it. There's a lot of instructional things on there that maybe even dedicated to things that are like stuff we wouldn't use anymore, like tying different types of knots. Most people, unless you're in a certain profession or you're outdoorsman or something, probably wouldn't need to know much about that. But how to dress properly for like an interview or just stuff like that. Oh yeah, there are all kinds of stuff. Grooming things about like beards and I think I saw an article on there they talked about the perception of beards and like the history. Oh, it was crazy. Like there's so much stuff on that website. It's ridiculous.
It's I was watching things about there one time about like men's jewelry and like watches.
And the significance of like rings and stuff like
Oh, it's just brilliant. It's brilliant because I've always felt that I was on the outside of our culture looking in. And like I don't understand like why is the suit a thing,
right?
That kind of thing. So you read stuff like that, and you're like, oh, okay, you can kind of see the history of it. Yeah. And I think that's a thing of a lot of people of our generation. Like we don't understand. We don't have anchors to our own culture.
Yeah.
So we don't understand why we have all this stuff.
And there are things that we stopped doing it. Like if you go back and like say watch the show Mad Men, for instance, because that's set in like the 50s or 60s, whenever. And there are parts, I'm not going to say all of that culture is something that we should carry over, but there are parts of that culture, especially pertaining to men, that we don't do anymore that might be beneficial if we did it again.
Like drinking at work?
Yes, exactly. Drinking at work. Day drinking. But, there was this sort of drive then to...
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, if we're just looking at Mad Men as a thing, I don't know. It's an interesting time period, and I think there are things that we should totally learn from our different time periods and say, hey, these are things that we need to keep and maybe keep doing, like to keep preserving and maybe doing. I think that's what Art of Manliness does. Oh yeah, pretty well.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things I learned from them is, and this has helped me in my daily life. If I go anywhere, it's usually wearing a black T-shirt and a pair of jeans. But daggone it, if you put a sports coat on that, you're like, hey, what are y'all dressed up for? Yeah. Don't you look like you know what you're doing?
Yep.
Just you look like you know.
Well, and I don't want to steal her thunder, but Ashley said that didn't she say that her husband at the church they go to, he wears like those silkscreen like comic book T-shirts and all. He would wear a
coat on top of it.
A coat on top of a Captain America shirt, and people think he looks professional now.
Oh yeah, you can dress up anything. I'm telling you, fellas that are listening to this, go out and get you a navy blue, like just a navy like sports jacket, or get this time of year if you're living in some place that gets cool, get yourself a corduroy with those little padded things like you'd see some sort of professor wear. Get something like that, match it with whatever you're wearing, but you can wear it, and everyone like, wow, doesn't he look snazzy? You'll get dates, okay? You will get dates.
There's something respectable about that look.
Yeah, and it's classic, and I never understood why, but really, it basically comes down to it hides your gut, It makes your shoulders broader. That's really what this whole jacket thing is.
You
I'm
still
like,
get dates, don't you?
Yeah, with
and he's married.
my wife won't let me date anymore.
Yeah,
that's unless it's her. So I guess it's understandable.
That's depressing.
Oh well, that's what you give up, man.
It's called marriage.
That's why you gotta.
I'm kidding.
And waiting for the Ted Cruz people to come in.
Yeah,
and say, listen here, buddy. Looking at our culture, PewDiePie.
Oh, PewDiePie.
The largest YouTuber. He stays in trouble. He says a word that we can't utter here.
He said it hard.
Oh, this is just.
Have you seen the video?
Yeah.
Oh,
it just in the context of him playing his game, right?
He's playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. PUBG is what everybody calls it, and he's playing with a friend. They're shooting at a guy. His friend dies, and he calls the guy an effing N-word, and he uses a hard R on it.
Wow.
Oh, buddy.
So he's not trying to be gangster.
It was a moment of salty rage is what it was.
Okay.
And he says blah blah blah, and then you kind of hear his friend like haha, and then he says, he's like, sorry, and then he goes, but what an effing a-hole, and then he's like, and then it kind of goes on. He's like, I didn't mean it like that, and then that was kind of where the clip ends.
Why did he post it? Or it was live, wasn't it?
It was on Twitch, so It was a live stream, and that's one of the dangers of live streaming,
right?
Is that there's no editing. So that got captured and it got spread around, and now everybody thinks he's a super racist, and he's come out and apologized for it. What I like about him is that even if I don't like his content, he owned up to the fact that he said it.
Yeah.
And he owned up to the fact that it was something he shouldn't have said. And he says in his apology video that it was the worst thing he could think of at that moment in time to yell at that guy. And the thing was,
was the guy?
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay. So
you
we
can't
don't
tell.
know.
Don't know because you can't talk to the guy. Could have, but the guy wasn't talking to him.
Right.
And it's an in-game character, so who knows what the real person is. So it was just him yelling out something as terrible as he possibly could.
Wow.
And he apologizes for it, but when we talked about in our first episode YouTube monetization and stuff, and that's not really gonna I don't think that's gonna help that whole that whole field any.
Has he lost his monetization? Because he's so huge.
I don't know if he has. He would have said.
Yeah, because he did once, right?
Well, he lost his network, his multi-channel network, but I think he has his own anyway. Mm-hmm. And he's come out and said, geez, it's really nice not being with a network. Now I just make an 80-20 split. So he makes like $15 million a year, so he's not going to be
he's not crying about anything.
No. But it's one of those things where somebody said they go back to Carlin on it. And where he says, George Carlin said something like,
he's not George Carlin.
No. He wasn't trying to be, but it was what Carlin said about you have to look at the content of the situation. Or I'm going to butcher that quote because I don't know it. But coming down to it, the question now that's being asked by everybody who is looking for a reason to hate PewDiePie anyway is, look at him, he's a racist. Even though he said it,
I don't know that makes you a racist. I
don't think that makes you a racist.
It makes you a terrible person.
It makes you a person who doesn't have good impulse control, that's for sure. But a racist word does not a racist make.
Right.
So,
I'd go with that.
Yeah, so I don't, considering the amount of stuff he's donated to just charities in general, if he hated those people, he wouldn't have done it anyway.
Right.
But that's
it's just one of those things he thought he could get away with because he's kind of funny. But that George Carlin, God rest his soul, is a personal hero of mine, and he's informed my preaching in ways that most people will never understand. But he could get away with using that word because of how he used it. And it's not like he used it all the time.
No.
But
he does have a bit about
it was culture.
Forbidden words that you can't say.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
And it was, he went to the Supreme Court about several words you can't say on TV.
That's right.
Yeah, that was, and he won.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing in the 70s. Go check it out sometime. It's really interesting.
It sounds fun.
Oh my gosh. But he was, yeah, because they were trying to pretty much take him in. But he did this whole other thing just about talking about just just how people use the words and all that kind of stuff. And more or less, he had a whole joke about calling Richard Pryor that word.
Really?
And,
wow.
But so it was, and it wasn't controversial though.
So
because of the way he did it, it wasn't controversial and it wasn't angry either.
Talking about taking from past culture.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie Gran Torino?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. You know how Clint Eastwood goes into the barber shop and they call each other, the racial names, like, because the barber I think was like Irish and he's like, you blah 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 Patty, whatever, but they were really good friends.
Yeah,
that's what I would like to strive for in a reality where we can make fun of each other. Let's be the best of friends still afterwards. And I don't know if we're ever gonna get that. I'm never going to get that. See, that's my utopia, where we can make fun of each other and still be really good friends. And it's a friendly way of doing it, but it's never going to get there, guys.
I feel like I could sling an Italian slur at you.
You probably could.
And, but I just don't feel like I could do it here.
See, and the worst part is I could sling an Italian slur at myself and I'd still feel like I'm bad.
Yeah.
But to expand on the PewDiePie story, this is where things get questionable.
Right.
This is where the social justice stuff comes in, where a developer for this game called Firewatch, completely different game, he played it on his channel, his actual YouTube channel. So this developer has started filing DMCA claims on PewDiePie's videos because he said the N-word in a live stream that wasn't his game. And the thing is about that is
that's not how that works.
I don't think that's how that works, but it gets weird because on their website they even have an expressly written thing that says people can stream and do Let's Plays of our game. And now the actual legality of Let's Plays is a little questionable, but in this case, that's totally provoked by some offensive reaction that has nothing to do with
them.
Yeah, them. And that's one thing I've noticed is that whenever there's like a racial slur like that, it's always white people who get super offended first.
Right.
Like as if they have to be offended on behalf of.
And these are people who like to talk about white privilege.
Yeah.
And they use that moment to create themselves a platform.
Right.
And so still we have the problem with white privilege of a white person drowning out what someone else has to say.
And I hate it because it's like the reaction that normal people should have when they hear it is, I'm going to distance myself from that one.
Yeah.
That one's all you, buddy.
Yeah.
And then the people who you think would be offended by it should be the ones going, hey, what's up?
Yeah. If Twitch would have been okay if they would have gone on there and said, okay, you're out.
Yeah, you're going to get a ban for whatever.
Yeah.
Like for maybe a month or week or whatever. I mean.
Yeah, because a lot of them have racial slur like stuff in their terms of like their user terms.
Yeah, there's a lot of terms of service about certain speech things and things you can and can't say, that kind of thing. They ban male nipples on Twitch.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did they ban female nipples?
Yep, they ban all nipples.
Okay, at least it's fair.
Yeah,
at least it's fair.
Yeah. Maybe not dog nipples, but
well, who would put that on? No, I don't know.
Ted Cruz.
Oh well, okay, that set you right on up.
I don't know. I always get confused on what is and isn't white privilege anymore, because is it still technically white? Is it white privilege if white people come out and say, "Hey, I'm offended for this"? Or is it just like virtue signaling people who want to like you said, make a platform for themselves, like they want to signal about how good they are. And
I think those people, because I understand. I mean, we're a talk forum too, so I mean, we're talking about it, so I get it. Like people, have their platforms or whatever.
Right.
But for them to be the loudest, and then a lot of times they don't invite someone
Drowning
else
other
in.
people.
Yeah, like they need to be bringing in a person of whatever offended culture it is. They need to bring that person in and help give them that voice, because that's always when people tell me that I'm a horrible person because I'm straight white and have straight white privilege, without even knowing me. That's the one thing they said. Well, you have a platform. I'm like, what platform do I have?
Right.
But okay, let's listen to you. And they say that, whatever power that I have, I need to be sharing. It's fair. Like I get that I've got some advantages in life. So like, yeah, I want to share what I can with people. But I feel like in those situations, those white people with their platforms aren't sharing their voice. They're making their voice.
Yeah, and some of those people, I don't think even have a platform to begin with.
No,
but
they're creating their platform.
Twitter is their platform, and they just want to say, "Look at how good I am as a person." And
we're living in a culture where everyone's their own personal brand.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's dangerous. Not that it's dangerous like the world's going to fall apart because of it, but it's dangerous for their own psyche because they think there's something that they aren't.
Well, and it's what always it's a little schadenfreude here, but what I love to watch is when those people who virtue signal so hard, you find out that they actually are just like the person that they're trying to say that they aren't.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. And it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to watch that fall when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's terrible perspective, but it
is funny because for the same reason that I don't like it when preachers do it. I don't like it when any of these guys get on their TBN platforms or whatever and they start bashing against certain cultures and certain aspects of everything and doing it to sell their book or to promote their time or to increase their stature.
And I think
they're doing the same thing.
Just like the pastors that we were talking about earlier. If say, we decided that on CVC that somebody said something incredibly racist or whatever, and we invited somebody from the offended culture to come in and voice their thing, I'd have to still assume that whatever the opinion they talk about is still just theirs, because I mean there are plenty of people who I've seen come out and say about PewDiePie's thing who are in the, I hate saying the word like community. I hate it, but people who I have seen black people come out and say, I don't care, it doesn't matter. So it's kind of like, okay. So it really enforces this whole idea that people are just themselves. They're not part of a group. It doesn't matter who they are.
If you want to destroy PewDiePie, quit watching him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
quit talking about him because he does something stupid every few months.
He has the subscriber size of he's like the 33rd large. If he were a country, he'd be like the 33rd most populated one. It's just 57 million subscribers. So, I mean, that dude, and honestly, I don't think that's going to hurt him any.
No. You realize like NBC primetime now is doing good to hit 5 million.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't that crazy?
And especially when somebody like him brings in, I mean, at least on a video, you're going to see 2 to 3 million per video.
Wow.
And that might, depending on what it is, might even be higher or a little bit lower. But monthly, you're looking at 60, 70 million views a month. I mean, that's ridiculous. Wow. That's ridiculous money, too.
Like, he's beating the day card, like the day part times. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh, that's amazing. How do we get there? It's a shameless self-promotion, right?
So, hey, guys. So if you want to follow us, we have social media accounts.
That's right.
And if you have ideas for the show, which I think we should say this one at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
To follow us on Twitter. That one's going to be the big one. That way we can get ideas and go, we didn't read those either.
Oh, man. I would love to not read anything that you had to say. I would just love to see a good title and then us just riff on it. That seems to be our... I've said it before, CVC is not a news gathering service.
No.
It's a news headline commentary.
Yeah, and it's basically just some friends sitting in a room riffing on everything, everything and anything.
Oh, but you're right. The social media stuff. We're on CVC podcast. CVC podcast is our Twitter handle. Also, just type that into the Facebook and you'll find us there too. Also, cvcpodcast.com. You can also listen to us on iTunes, your Android platforms. We're on Stitcher. So we're in all those places too. Where else should we be? We're on the YouTube.
Yeah,
you can get us on YouTube, and we've got CBC Bites now, where we break apart these episodes. So,
and we'll be put behind an age gate wall before too long.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Oh well, we've been at this over an hour, man. Let's tie it up, man.
Right.
We'll see you guys next week, and have a good time. Listen to everything. Please share this with your friends. And because we're seeing the numbers go up, and that's what we're wanting, obviously. So
that's fun to watch.
Yeah, it really makes us feel important in life.
We want that Dollar Shave Club sponsorship.
Yeah, that's it.
You just shaved.
I just shaved, and Nick hasn't shaved in like 8 years.
Years.
Yeah. So okay, we'll see everyone next week.
Bye.